Good morning, everyone. Our topic for today is live, love, reproduce. Describe the different modes of reproduction in animals such as butterflies, mosquitoes, frogs, cats, and dogs. Compare and contrast the modes of the reproduction of selected organisms. So ito po yung topic natin ngayon. Okay? So our expectations, in this module, you will describe the different modes of reproduction of animals. Specifically, this module will help you to describe the mode of reproduction of butterflies, mosquitoes, frogs, dogs, and cats, and compare and contrast the modes of reproductions of selected organisms. So, makikita natin kung paano nagpaparami yung mga paru-paro, ayan, mga paru-paro, mga lamok, mga palaka, aso, at pusa. Okay? So, alamin natin kung ano nga ba yung mga reproductions nila or yung mode of living nila. Okay? So, what is reproduction? Reproduction, a biological process by which new individual organisms are produced. Okay? So, nakita niyo sa picture, di ba si Boss Baby? Okay? So, si Boss Baby, meron siyang mother and father. So, of course, para makagawa ka ng offspring, kailangan ng male and female gametes or male and female cells, sex cells. Okay? So, yun yung reproduction. Kaya nagkakaroon ng reproduction para magkaroon ng offspring o baby. Okay. So, sa reproduction, meron tayong tinatawag na asexual reproduction. So, what is asexual reproduction? A type of reproduction that does not involve the fusion of gametes or sex cells. So, ang tatandaan natin dito, yung word na a. Okay? A means does not, asexual. Hindi ito sinasamahan ng mga gametes or sex cells. So, nagpaparami ang mga organisms na hindi ginagamitan ng sex cells. Walang egg cell, walang sperm cell. Ang example natin dito, itong mukhang halaman na to. Okay, hindi yung mismong isda ha, yung mismong halaman. So, yung mga plants under the sea and yung mga plants in the land, yung mga halaman, ay kaya nating paramihin gamit ang asexual reproduction. Ibig sabihin nun ay hindi kailangan ng egg cell at sperm cell para dumami sila. Okay? So, yun. Ang tawag dito ay sea anemone. Okay? Diyan nakatira sila Nemo, or mga clownfish. Ang tawag dyan ay sea anemone. Yung sea anemone, plants siya na makikita doon sa ilalim ng dagat. Okay. Next type is sexual reproduction. So, it takes place when sex cells from two parent animals, one male and one female, unite to form a new animal. So, example natin dito, yung mga tigers. Okay? So, yan. Halimbawa, from the movie of Simba, Lion King, di ba? Ito si Simba at yung kanyang asawa. At eventually, kapag sila ay nagsama dahil gagamit sila ng sex cells or tinatawag nating gametes, magkakaroon sila ng bagong baby. Okay? So, sexual reproduction. Tandaan ha, pag asexual, okay, asexual does not, hindi ginagamitan ng sex cells. Pero kapag sexual, may gamit na sex cells. Okay? So, copulation is the scientific name of the act of engaging in sexual practices of animals. It involves the insertion of the male penis to the female vagina to transfer the sperm of the male in most of the animals, or to cloaca, the only body opening for digestion, reproduction of many vertebrate animals. So, ano nga ba yung copulation? Okay, so ito yung scientific term ng pagpaparami. So, yung egg cell ay sasama sa sperm cell. So, ibig sabihin, magkakaroon sila ng sexual intercourse para magparami sila. Siyempre, kailangan magdikit ang penis at vagina para malipat doon yung sperm cell. Okay? So, ganun yung ginagawa. Ano yung cloaca? Okay? Cloaca, ito yung only opening lang doon sa may hayop. Kasi may mga hayop na iisa lang ang passageway o iisa lang ang daanan ng ihi at ng egg cell. Okay? Pero sa animals naman, like humans or dogs, cats, di ba, merong penis at may vagina. Iba pa yung kung saan sila umiihi, iba pa yung kung saan sila dumudumi. So, sa cloaca naman, ito yung opening na kung saan lahat na nandoon na. Okay? So, yun po yun. Copulation, paraan ng pagpaparami. Ito yung ginagawa ng isang babae at isang lalaki para makapagparami o para mabuntis ang isang babae, para makapagparami ng kanilang offspring. Next, fertilization takes place when sperm cell unites with the egg cell. The fertilized egg is called zygote, which develops into embryo. Animals have sex organs that produce sex cells or gametes. Ayan. So, nagpaparami. Fertilized egg, ito yung pinagsamang sperm cell at egg cell. Pag lumaki yun, nagsama yun, ang tawag doon ay zygote. Okay? Tapos, kapag mas lumaki yun, ang tawag doon ay embryo. Nagkakaroon lang ng fertilization kapag ang animals ay nagsama ang kanilang sex cells. Ano ulit ang sex cells ng lalaki? Sperm cell, 'di ba? Ang gametes naman ng babae ay egg cell. Okay, so ito yung example ng fertilization o gametes. Gametes wherein this is the egg cell and this is the sperm cell. When sperm cell and egg cell unites, it will become blastula. So, ibig sabihin, ito yung first stage na kung saan mangyayari kapag nagsama ang sperm cell at egg cell, nagiging blastula muna yan. Pagdating ng ilang stage, magkakaroon na ng zygote o tinatawag na fertilized egg. Ibig sabihin, ito na yung sobrang liit na itlog, kaya fertilized egg. Tapos, until such time na magkakaroon na ng embryo. Ayun. So, yun na yun. Embryo, yung nagiging fetus. Okay? So, mas malaking embryo, yun yung fetus. Okay. So, meron tayong video dito ng fertilization. Okay, makinig kayo mabuti para alam nyo kung paano nga ba talaga nangyayari ang fertilization.
Fertilization is the epic story of a single sperm facing incredible odds to unite with an egg and form a new human life. It is the story of all of us. During sexual intercourse, about 300 million sperm enter the vagina. Soon afterward, millions of them will either flow out of the vagina or die in its acidic environment. However, many survive because of the protective elements provided in the fluid surrounding them. Next, the sperm must pass through the cervix, an opening into the uterus. Usually, it remains tightly closed, but here the cervix is open for a few days while the woman ovulates. The sperm swim through the cervical mucus, which is thinned to a more watery consistency for easier passage. Once inside the cervix, the sperm continues swimming toward the uterus, though millions will die trying to make it through the mucus. Some sperm remain behind, caught in the folds of the cervix, but they may later continue the journey as a backup to the first group. Inside the uterus, muscular uterine contractions assist the sperm on their journey toward the egg. However, resident cells from the woman's immune system, mistaking the sperm for foreign invaders, destroy thousands more. Next, half the sperm head for the empty fallopian tube, while the other half swim toward the tube containing the unfertilized egg. Now, only a few thousand remain. Inside the fallopian tube, tiny cilia push the egg toward the uterus. To continue, the sperm must surge against this motion to reach the egg. Some sperm get trapped in the cilia and die. During this part of the journey, chemicals in the reproductive tract cause the membranes covering the heads of the sperm to change. As a result, the sperm become hyperactive, swimming harder and faster toward their destination. At long last, the sperm reach the egg. Only a few dozen of the original 300 million sperm remain. The egg is covered with a layer of cells called the corona radiata. The sperm must push through this layer to reach the outer layer of the egg, the zona pellucida. When sperm reach the zona pellucida, they attach to specialized sperm receptors on the surface, which triggers their acrosomes to release digestive enzymes, enabling the sperm to burrow into the layer. Inside the zona pellucida is a narrow, fluid-filled space just outside the egg cell membrane. The first sperm to make contact will fertilize the egg. After a perilous journey and against incredible odds, a single sperm attaches to the egg cell membrane. Within a few minutes, their outer membranes fuse and the egg pulls the sperm inside. This event causes changes in the egg membrane that prevent other sperm from attaching to it. Next, the egg releases chemicals that push other sperm away from the egg and create an impenetrable fertilization membrane. As the reaction spreads outward, the zona pellucida hardens, trapping any sperm unlucky enough to be caught inside. Outside the egg, sperm are no longer able to attach to the zona pellucida. Meanwhile, inside the egg, the tightly packed male genetic material spreads out. A new membrane forms around the genetic material, creating the male pronucleus. Inside, the genetic material reforms into 23 chromosomes. The female genetic material, awakened by the fusion of the sperm with the egg, finishes dividing, resulting in the female pronucleus, which also contains 23 chromosomes. As the male and female pronuclei form, spiderweb-like threads, called microtubules, pull them toward each other. The two sets of chromosomes join together, completing the process of fertilization. At this moment, a unique genetic code arises, instantly determining gender, hair color, eye color, and hundreds of other characteristics. This new single cell, the zygote, is the beginning of a new human being. And now the cilia in the fallopian tube gently sweep the zygote toward the uterus, where he or she will implant in the rich uterine lining, growing and maturing for the next 9 months until ready for birth.
Okay, so yun yung ginagawa ng sperm cell sa loob ng katawan ng babae. So that's it, yung katulad ng napanood ninyo. So maraming mga changes or maraming pagdadaanan ang sperm cell bago siya makapunta doon sa egg cell. At kung sino yung unang sperm cell ang makaka-attach doon sa egg cell, yun yung tatanggapin niya. At yun yung magiging fertilized egg. Okay? Next. So, ang tawag natin doon ay fertilization. And then, the fertilization, may tinatawag na internal fertilization. Takes place when the male animal releases sperm cells into the body of the female animal to fertilize egg. So, ibig sabihin, yung napanood nyo, ang tawag doon ay internal fertilization. Bakit yung tinawag na internal fertilization? Tinawag yung internal fertilization kasi nga po, nangyari yon sa loob ng katawan ng babae. So, inside the body of the woman. Kaya internal, loob, in. Nangyari ang fertilization sa loob ng katawan. So, example ng mga internal fertilization ay yung mosquito. Okay, so nakikita nyo dito yung metamorphosis ng mosquito. Okay, so before adult mosquito, egg wraps, syempre itlog muna, naging larva, naging pupa, naging emerging adult, at naging adult mosquito. So, bakit siya internal fertilization? Kasi nangyari ang kanyang pagdadala ng egg sa loob ng katawan niya. Okay? Sa loob ng katawan ng adult mosquito. Sa kanya yon ipinanganak as egg. Kaya internal. Basta tatandaan nyo, pag internal, ito yung mga fertilization na nangyayari sa loob ng katawan ng isang animals or insects. So, tignan natin, meron tayong video dito. Panoorin natin kung paano nangyayari metamorphosis ng mosquito.
Reproduction and life cycle of mosquitoes. In this video, you will learn the reproduction and life cycle of mosquitoes. Adult male mosquitoes consume only nectar, and the female mosquitoes are the ones that bite. After feeding on blood meal and mating, female mosquitoes lay their eggs in water. Mosquitoes generally try to lay their eggs in small pools of water with no fish. After 1 to 4 days, eggs hatch into larvae. They look like small, buoyant worms called wrigglers. The larvae live in the water, straining organic matter from the water to up to 14 days. They then transform into pupa, which are mobile. The pupa stage persists for a few days until they transform into adults. The whole life cycle is about a week for males. Females can live as long as a month. Mosquitoes in the aquatic life stages are consumed by fish. Adults are hunted by bats and dragonflies. Now let's recap. Mosquitoes exhibit 4 life stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. Mosquitoes lay their eggs in water and the eggs hatch into larvae. After 14 days, they transform into pupa and then finally into adults. And that's it! Now you know how mosquitoes reproduce and their life cycle.
Okay, so yan yung video natin about sa mosquitoes. Pero napansin nyo dito sa picture natin, merong emerging adult. Ibig sabihin, ito kasi yung na-hatch o na sirang pupa para maging ito ay maging adult. Okay? Another example of internal fertilization is a butterfly. Okay? So we have the metamorphosis or the life cycle of the butterfly in the diagram. So first, we have eggs or an egg. An egg will turn into caterpillar, and that caterpillar will turn into chrysalis. Okay, chrysalis is also known as pupa. Pupa din yan. Okay, and into a butterfly. So, for us to understand more, let us watch the video.
Our topic for today is life cycle of a butterfly. A butterfly lays eggs on the leaves of a plant. eggs hatch, and young ones called larvae, or caterpillars, come out of the eggs. The caterpillar first feeds on the eggshell from which it is born. It then starts feeding on the leaves and starts to grow. The caterpillar sheds its skin several times so that it can grow. Once the caterpillar is big enough, it stops eating. It then forms a protective layer around itself. This stage is called chrysalis. In this stage, the caterpillar is now called pupa. The pupa remains motionless in the chrysalis. Inside the chrysalis, the pupa undergoes a series of changes. After about 15 days, a beautiful adult butterfly emerges out of the chrysalis. When the butterfly comes out, its wings are small and wet. The butterfly pumps fluids into its wings to make them strong and to expand. After a few hours, the wings become strong enough and the butterfly is able to fly. These series of changes in the life cycle of a butterfly is called metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis of the butterfly. So, according to the video, ganun po yung nangyayari sa butterfly. Again, internal fertilization yan ha, kasi ang butterfly, naglilay ng eggs galing sa kanyang katawan. Okay? So, nagkaroon na ng sexual reproduction kasi ang butterfly ay merong egg cell at sperm cell. Okay? So, that is the another example of internal fertilization in insects. Next naman ay sa cats and dog, okay? So, dito sa cats and dog, of course, ito yung diagram na kung saan ay nagkakaroon sila ng mating or copulation. Ito yung tinatawag nating copulation. Okay? Na kung saan the male animals penis inserts doon sa vagina ng female. Okay? So, nagkakaroon din sila ng copulation at, of course, sino ba ang nagdadala ng puppy at ng cute na cat sa katawan? Di ba ang mga babaeng animals? So, tinatawag yung internal fertilization and sexual reproduction kasi nga po, nasa loob ng katawan ng animals yung dinadala. Okay? Ulitin natin ha, pag sexual reproduction, may egg cell and sperm cell. At internal fertilization, kasi nga po ay may sa loob ginagawa. Okay? Sexual reproduction and internal fertilization. And another type of fertilization is external fertilization. Ayan. External fertilization takes place when the union of egg cell and sperm cell occurs outside the body of the female animal. So, ibig sabihin, external sa labas. Okay? Kung nakikita niyo itong fish na to, may mga itlog, diba? So, yan, may mga itlog. Nagkakaroon sila ng outside. Ibig sabihin, yung itlog or yung egg cell ng female animal, nilalabas niya, kumbaga parang nilalabas niya sa katawan yun. And then, yung sperm cell ng male animal, nilalabas niya rin sa katawan. At doon sila sa tubig nagsuswim. Okay, nagsuswim yung sperm cell patungo sa egg cell. Kaya itong maliliit na to, ayan na yung egg or fertilized egg. Hindi yan lumalaki sa loob ng katawan ng female animal, kundi sa labas. Kaya nga outside external. Okay? Under pa rin yan ng sexual reproduction. Bakit? Kasi gumamit ng egg cell at sperm cell. Yun ang tatandaan na kapag, 'di ba, sexual reproduction with sex cells or gametes. Ito nga lang ay tinawag na external kasi sa labas ng katawan ng babae nabubuo ang fertilized egg. Okay? So, example ng external fertilization ay yung frogs. So, we have here the diagram of the life cycle of a frog. Of course, it starts with the egg. Yan, egg, embryo, tadpole, and tadpole with 2 legs, tadpole with 4 legs, young frog, and adult frog. Okay, so, ito ang kanilang life cycle. Okay, so let us see what is more about the life cycle of the frog. Tignan natin. Bakit tinawag na external fertilization yan? Tandaan ha, external kasi sa labas ng katawan ng female frog nabubuo ang fertilized egg.
Oh, we are sorry, Mr. Frog. My cat wasn't aware that those are your eggs. Phew. Come out, little kitty. Mr. Frog has gone. Hey, friends. I'm sure, just like this kitty, you must be curious to know more about frogs' eggs and their life. So, let's hop on into the tiny world of these amphibians and learn about the life cycle of a frog. Zoom in! It all starts with a female frog laying hundreds of eggs, generally in a pond that vary in size, colors, and shapes with different species. These eggs float on the surface of the water, coated with a jelly-like substance that acts as a protective layer. But despite that, most of the eggs get destroyed due to various natural calamities like rain and wind, due to which only a few get fertilized. This mass of fertilized egg in the jelly is known as spawn. After a few days, a baby frog known as tadpole hatches out of the egg that looks more like a fish than a frog and feeds on the yolk of the egg from which it came out. Well, that's one hungry fella. As time passes by, tadpoles develop external gills that help them breathe under the water. Their tails begin to elongate and fins also develop. They spend their time eating plants and algae as they continue to grow for several weeks. After a few weeks, their external gills begin to disappear and hind limbs start to appear. Then, after a few more weeks, the tadpole begins to look somewhat like a frog as it turns into a froglet. And during this stage, they develop forelimbs and lungs for breathing outside water. And on the final stage, their tail becomes smaller and smaller and eventually disappears. Then it hops right out of the water and onto dry land for the first time, where it enters the adult stage in the next couple of years to lay their eggs, and more tadpoles hatch as the cycle continues. Trivia time! Did you know that the tadpole uses the nutrients stored in its tail as food? So until its tail is completely gone, it doesn't need anything else to eat in its journey of becoming a young frog. It's question time! So friends, today's question is, what do you call a baby frog? Do write in your answer in the comment section below and hit the like button to be a part of the Peekaboo family. And before you go, here are the winners. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. And until next time, it's me, Dr. Binox, zooming out. Never mind.
Thank
Kids,
you.
you liked my videos,
Hi,
didn't you?
Dr.
Before you
Binox.
go, don't forget to click on the subscribe button and the bell so you won't miss out on my latest videos. See you!
O, diba? Ang galing ni Dr. Bino. So, yun yung about sa life cycle of the frog. Okay? So, yun nga, gaya nga nasabi niya, nagbigay siya ng trivia na kapag yung young frog ay magiging adult frog, kinakain niya yung buntot niya. O, diba? So, para mas maging mas malakas yung adult frog. Okay, next naman natin ay fishes. Okay, so fishes is also included in external fertilization. So, as you can see, we have eggs. Nag-start siya sa eggs, embryo, larva, juvenile fish, and adult fish. Pag juvenile fish, maliliit lang na fish. Okay, so let us see how this, the life cycle of fishes look like. Okay, so let us again watch the video for us to understand.
Fish undergo various life stages throughout their lifetime. Similar to humans who have 6 life stages altogether, from fetus, baby, child, adolescent, adult, and old person, fish too experience 6 stages in their life cycle. The origin of fish life begins from a simple small egg. Eggs that have been fertilized from a male and female fish will develop into embryo. The hardened eggs will hatch once the conditions are appropriate, which means temperature plays an important role in determining the egg hatching time. The embryo refers to the stage where fish is still unable to feed itself. The food for the embryo comes from the mother either directly through the egg yolk or indirectly through the blood. Embryonic stage could be divided into 2, inside and outside of egg. In both stages, the general characteristic is where the embryo still nourishes itself through the nutrients from the mother. Once hatched, the head will come out first, followed by the tails as the embryo needs to push itself to come out easily.
Now, once the egg hatch, larva will emerge. Larva stage also defined by two stages, pre-larva and post-larva. Pre-larva is when the yolk is still intact on the body and fish will rely on the yolk until it is fully absorbed. So, the period for post-larva is in between the hatching until the end of yolk absorption. Some organs begin to develop during this stage and it will start searching for food from outside. Zooplankton are among the usual dietary requirement for post-larva stage. Then the juvenile will take place once the fish looks like miniature adult. Nearly all internal organs and fin have fully developed, although coloration may look different from the adult stage. During this phase, the young fish will require a high percentage of protein content in their diet as they will literally live to eat and grow. Once the functional gonad already fully developed, it will be the end of their juvenile life stage. Adulthood begins when the reproduction capability is fully functional. It will begin with the first maturing of gonad and end when it no longer could reproduce. Changes of color pattern, spawning behavior, and secondary character in certain species will clearly observed during this period. The adulthood could be the longest phase in many fish life as it can last for many years. The final stage is the senescence, in which fish will stop reproduce. By this time, due to the old age, the growth rate is slowing down, and it may last for only a few hours, just like salmon, or might be several years, such as in sturgeon. So that's how a fish undergo a full cycle of life. Isn't it amazing? If you think it is, why not thumbs up this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so we could share much more amazing stories of our fishes. Until then, thank you for watching and see you next time.
Okay, so that is the life cycle of the fish. So katulad nga nung sinabi, okay, naglalabas lang ng egg cell ang mga babaeng fish at naglalabas lang ng sperm cell ang mga lalaking fish. At outside, kaya nga external kasi sa labas nabubuo ang fertilized egg. Okay? So next natin, our summary. Okay? So we have reproduction. What is reproduction? Reproduction is new offspring is produced. Okay, tatandaan ha, ang reproduction ay ito yung paraan para magparami. Okay, so reproduction is divided into two, which is the sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. What is sexual reproduction? Sexual reproduction, use of gametes or sex cells to reproduce. Okay, gagamit ng gametes, egg cell and sperm cell para makapagparami. What are the examples of this? May cat, may dog, may butterfly, at may mosquito. How about asexual reproduction? So, asexual reproduction, do not use of gametes or sex cells to reproduce. So, ang example natin ay sea anemone at yung plants. Okay? So, that is asexual reproduction. Now, fertilization is the union of egg cell and sperm cell. So, pinagsama, yun yung fertilization. And then, fertilization is divided also into two, which are internal fertilization and external fertilization. What is internal fertilization? Fertilized egg is inside the body. Kaninong katawan? Doon sa female animal. What are those examples? Cat, dog, butterfly, and mosquito. Diba? Sa loob ng katawan, lumalaki yung fertilized egg. Sa kanila ilalabas. Okay? So, how about external? Sa external fertilization, fertilized egg is outside the body. So, labas, sa labas ng katawan. Diba? Sabi ko nga, naglalabas lang ng egg cell ang female animal at naglalabas lang ng sperm cell ang male animal at doon sa labas or sa water sila nagkikita para magkaroon ng fertilized egg. So what are those examples? Frog and fish. Okay? So that is the end of our topic. If you have questions, just feel free to ask.